again, I'm not sure whether to be too excited that we are all here, and after here we will have commitment from our HODs, leaders in the academic departments, that together we're going to drive this to where we want. And also not be too excited because of the problems that you are facing, the solutions that are already on place but we're not tapping into. So I've got a bit of mixed feelings. And with the task that is put in front of me, I hope, because I know there are people with possibly too high expectations for me, I hope by the time I finish with this, I would have addressed at least one or two of your expectations, but not all. Yeah, this is how it's possibly not going to take 40 minutes or 35 minutes, but this is how I have structured my presentation. I start here all the time. If you have seen this before, structure of our directorate, you can close your eyes for some time, but I'm not sure who's going to say open. Now we are in a different slide. But this is something that I think you should know. If you expect more than what we are offering, at least you should have in mind what are we composed of as a structure. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the goal that we are responsible for, its objectives and some priorities. Some DHET targets in terms of enrollments, research outputs, staff with qualifications at M's and D's, and then previous performance, distribution of research outputs through SCRI, 2015 policy on research outputs, approach to scholarship in 2016, scholarship and fellowships in niche areas, our approach as SCRI, and some kind of info in terms of what our supervisors should know, Turnitin access, ORCID system, which I think also our researchers should know. And then if there is still time, I will go down to TUT scholarship, our Ds and agreements, and capacity at faculties, and their performance in 2014. That's the structure of PRI colleagues. That's supposed to be serving the whole institution. Without even me saying too much, you can already see, if you exclude the purple bar there, which is positions that are funded externally, that is PRI. We've got a manager of research. Unfortunately, currently it's vacant. And then the 4 legs that are in there: support for research ethics, postgraduate support and postdoctoral support, research support and niche area support, staff development. We do have statistical services, only 2 people providing support to the whole institution. Manager of innovation, 2 of the positions vacant, only 1 person who's permanent. And in the city side, we've got manager of cities and the administrator of cities. That's us. The goal that we are responsible to achieve for the institution is to promote a culture of inquiry and social enterprise through technology-based postgraduate studies, research and innovation in current and emerging niche areas. And possibly my presentation you will see at the end, it's focused more into what is it that we are doing for the niche areas and possibly for the emerging niche areas, rather than the well-established environments or research platforms. We expected, in terms of the goal, to achieve objective number 1, to ensure an enabling and supportive environment for postgraduate studies, research and innovation. And those are our priorities as an office. Objective number 2, to encourage and promote postgraduate studies, research and innovation in current and emerging niche areas. So we are more just the support with whatever resources we have. We are also expected to provide a supportive environment that promotes entrepreneurship and commercialization of applicable TUT intellectual property. That's the leg on innovation. How we work, we don't have resources. Our resources are sitting in your environments. We depend on you academic leaders to help us to achieve those objectives for the university. Our job is just to support, and the support that we only have is what we have tried to provide you and what the institution has enabled us to provide you so that we can achieve all these things. And I have put this here to show you that we depend on departments, on faculties to do what we can do. Without those students that you first have to recruit and bring on board, after registration, that's when we start with the support. So our job is to look after the welfare of our postgraduate students and to make sure that then we report, then they graduate on time, and then there are publications. There are policies that are trying to help us in addressing some of these things that are sitting as our outputs, as our directorate. And I'm not going to talk too much about this one. It's about the research management support. The first slide was about postgraduate and postdoctoral fellowship. This is about research support, and it's exactly the same. Faculties, departments, everything is sitting under your departments, your environments. We just provide information, we support where we can, we identify resources, mobilization, and if we are not going to hold hands and push that our researchers respond to whatever that we put on the table, we're all not going anywhere. And this is what we also try to drive: number of publications, number of rated researchers, qualified staff, external research income is what we will then bring to the institution. In terms of innovation, the same thing. We've got seats that are sitting at faculties, at departments as well. We've got faculties with our researchers. With that information, then we have to make sure that we protect our intellectual property for the benefit of the institution. So this is how we relate to you. So we need you to succeed, and we know you also need us to succeed. Now, in terms of the reason why I am here, DHET targets and previous performance, I have seen the latest slide in terms of the targets differs a little bit with mine from 2017. For 2016, it looks exactly the same, and possibly what I have here is what people have been saying, where did that come from? We have seen those numbers, who thumbsucked them? But the 2016 is still valid. Surely DVC can, yeah. The only difference is from 2017, and we will update that accordingly in terms of what has now been changed target-wise enrollment of students and graduations. Now, these were the targets that were presented to us by Senate at one point before there was an outcry that we have to revise, which is what has possibly happened. On my slides, you see there's enrollments targets. There's also graduation targets for 2016, 2017, 2018. And with what has been presented today, it means we will be able to meet our targets for 2016. 2017, it's a discussion for another day. Academic staff members with M's and D's, we will never achieve if we don't have them. According to DHET targets, and I'm not sure if the DVC has had maybe an opportunity to see these ones also revised, because this is what went with the previous slide to DHET. These are the targets that were set for us as an institution. In 2016, we are expected to have staff members with doctoral degrees, 324 across all faculties, 485 with master's degrees. Total 958, 149 with other qualification. And then 2017, it increases just like that. So, questions, I'm sure, at the end. Eh?
We've made the 2019 already.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. What are the real numbers now?
Okay.
I'll tell you now.
Okay.
When she starts.
At the end, thank you. And then the percentage-wise, doctoral degrees 2016, 34 and 51 in terms of masters, and possibly we have met these targets, so we have then to deliver. Research outputs, targets for 2016 colleagues. In terms of publication units, the journal articles, conferences, books, chapters, all those we are expected to produce 425. 2016.
We had what now?
What I can share with you is that the submission for 2015, which should talk to that, is less than that, 320 or so.
Small,
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Okay, it's not bad. But masters, research full masters colleagues, 170 in 2015. In 2016 is 209 total graduates, doctoral, 67, 2015, 123 in 2017. And that increases as we move along. The weighted is based on how DHET expect us to perform. DHET expect us to be as an academic appointed in an institution of higher learning to at least produce 1.1 research output unit per annum. Those standards are there. But the question is, what are other people doing who are not even producing 1.1? And it can be 1.1 of publications plus graduations. It's not too much to ask.
Be a combination.
It's a combination, colleagues, 1.1. And what makes 1.1 a research article is 1 unit. Your conference is half a unit. Your graduation at master's is a unit. Your graduation at doctoral is 3 units. It's not too much for me to ask. 1.1, colleagues, if you can all set yourself 1.1 as a target, we will achieve all these.
I'm sorry, can I just take clarity?
Oh, okay.
Is that while you're on that, is that now per us, let's say the so-called researchers, or is that the average from the junior lecturer or the whole university one?
Permanent
Instructional research.
Yes.
permanent teaching staff.
Yes.
Permanent teaching staff. So the challenge that I'm happy you are faced with, the people who make appointments, is to bring people to the departments who can help you with this 1.1 research output achievement. If you are going to have lots of staff without M's and D's, it's going to catch up with you. I'm not saying don't recruit them. Let's build on them. But if we add them on our staff numbers, it has an effect on how you perform. So help us with that. And that's why I said I'm a bit too excited today that I'm talking to you, and confused and worried that after here I'll be dead. Okay, current performance, colleagues. I want to show you this. DVC was asking me the other day about weighted research outputs, publication-wise. Not publication-wise, but research outputs. Publication, remember I'm talking articles, conferences, books and chapters. Now I'm talking research output-wise. Our target was 573 for 2014. We have achieved 627. So this we can brag about, because we have surpassed the target that was set for us as an institution. But how did we do that? Remember I showed you a slide that said we haven't achieved in terms of research publications. We have done that in terms of research graduations, masters and doctoral, the production. Now, Prof. Mji was not bragging, and Professor Elsabe, they were not bragging about the Faculty of Humanities having done very well. They have indeed done extremely well in terms of graduations at doctoral level. And they are the reason why we are possibly where we are with our research output unit, as was set for us by the department. Okay, I have said here to increase our publication outputs, publication drafts of our students is an untapped source. We have students who graduate. The previous policy was expecting that our M's, before graduation, there has to be a draft publication. Those things are not there. And we are sitting now with a question, how do you come up with a strategy to increase? That will be the pot we would start with. But the drafts are no longer, are nowhere. We can't start anyway. So help us to push that our students at least prepare those drafts. We know the current policy does not require such. It requires that only at doctoral level. So faculties that have not been publishing with their students, please help us. And HODs, it is your task. When you fill in those forms for submission. I knew. Okay, sorry, Prof. Mashik. I knew I was going to fall on the trap. But please, colleagues, I said this is a partnership thing. Help us, because there has to be those publications in graduation. In fact, we've been a bit lenient. At doctoral level, at least there must be one publication and one submitted. One ready for submission, something like that. So if we can just do that, we will achieve our targets. I am very hopeful. I want to open this Excel spreadsheet. Something says don't. It's previous performance. It will show you how we've been doing in the past. Maybe let me leave it for later.
Open it.
Must I open it?
Why? It's looking good that way.
It's previous performance, colleagues, but it's not per faculty. This is just for the whole institution ever since 2005, how we've been doing. We have just been increasing if you look at it. Journals, conferences, books, even though we're not doing very well there, but total journals, staff numbers, permanent teaching, the ratio currently in terms of research outputs, what we are contributing, and hence why I'm saying if you can just hold each one responsible to change that, it will change the numbers eventually. And then the numbers in terms of graduations, how do I get there? In terms of graduations, M's and D's, we've been increasing. Well, sometimes not. Like last year, we went a bit down. And with the exception of humanities. Humanities tried, but you can see still. And, okay, 217. Weighted postgraduate teaching units. It's 346. This is about now the average in terms of the number of staff that we have appointed who are also not helping us in increasing these numbers. And the last column there talks about how we are performing as an institution. Remember I said the weighted norm for TUT and UOTs, our cluster is 1.1. We are sitting at 0.66, and it can be maybe one of our targets as departments on how to get to 1.1. It's a simple one, 1.1 for the department per staff. Okay. Distribution of research outputs through SCRI. I'm pleased that the DVC is here. I know that people were very unhappy this year, colleagues, but you have to understand the resources are diminishing slowly but surely. And if we are not going to hold hands and achieve that 1.1 per academic PTS, then we will continue to fight for the research income in terms of subsidy. Unfortunately, this year, DRE had to tap into what was already going to the faculties. And this is why there was a lot of unhappiness, but it had to happen that way. The yellow figures here are about how we were distributing the funds in 2015. as opposed to how we distributed the funds, research outputs in 2016. You will have these slides. The bottom line is we have done something positive for the people, the goose that lay the golden egg. This is what has been coming. There's a goose that lay the golden egg. What are you doing about it? And this is what we changed in terms of the benefit sharing on graduations. And this is more or less the same to show how we have improved distribution of resources, especially to the research, the authors and the supervisors. Now, I've said solutions are there. We do have Department of Higher Education Research Development Grant. That is meant to help us, especially in terms of improvement of qualification. Yes, we have met the targets, but we can do more. We have money that we're not spending. Just have a look at 2015, last year's budget. This was the allocation. This is the money that is to be taken back to the Department of Higher Education because it was not spent. We have so many staff who are without M's and D's. We have resources to help them. People are not forthcoming. This year's allocation is 4.4 million. Plus the 3 million, because we know this is what DHET is going to say. This one you can carry it forward, but let it address the same project. It's going to be 7 million. How can we help our staff who do not have M's and D's to at least improve their qualification and help us in terms of increasing research outputs? Postdoctoral fellowship, I don't want to talk about it. All that I can say is that the department is adamant that postdoctoral fellowship under their budget must just be for South African fellows. Academic exchange, colleagues, this is the money that we use more than any other. Mentoring and training, and I am so looking forward to hearing from our HODs. What is your idea of mentoring and training? We may have our ideas, but how can we help that you are then what we want you to be in terms of research outputs? We've got now 17. This is what is not spent in mentoring and training. Research capacity development, the people who just got their doctoral qualifications, there is a lot of money. 2.7 million not used last year, plus 3.5 this year. Give us ideas. Let's see how we can accommodate them into this and spend the money from DHET. Hence why I say there are solutions to the problems. I also wanted to share with you the policy on research outputs moving forward. There is a new policy. I'm not going to go too much into details about it. I just want to touch on the changes that have been brought forward in this policy. The current publications, colleagues, will be affected by this policy. So when you go back, our researchers who are publishing must bear this in mind. There is a policy, it's sitting with the faculty research office committees, and it's detailed as you can possibly think, but it is more for our advantage. In the past, this used to be the list on the Department of Higher Education journal list. It has been added, extended to Scopus, to Shelo, Norwegian list. People who have been saying, you have narrowed down where we can publish to generate more money. It has been a bit expanded. It's not to cater for everybody, but it is at least expanded in a way. So the changes that are now in the conferences, according to the department, more than 60% of contributions in proceedings must be submitted, must emanate from multiple institutions. So there isn't going to be any more TUTs organizing a conference and articles will just, conference proceedings will just emanate from TUT only. 60% contributions must be from different institutions. The conferences will be audited like journals. Currently it's only the journals that are audited. DHET will have an approved list of conferences, but if you're sure of the peer review of the conference proceeding, it can still be submitted. It will be evaluated accordingly. Just make sure that, okay. You just have to make sure that there is all documents that are required by DHET as proof of peer review. They will also determine which additional list of this will be approved, and universities will be informed of the changes that will be implemented in future. People who love to write books, TUT, we don't write a lot of books, but maybe after this we will change our contribution. A chapter in a book is 1 unit. A book with minimum 60 pages up to 90 or less 90 pages is 2 units. A book with 300 pages will give you 10 units. In the past, the maximum was just 5 units. So there is a lot that the department has done in terms of the people who write books as research outputs. Now, there's been complaints from our faculties about the time given for them to submit research outputs. Based on all these changes, we have revised also our processes. We are going to establish, which is a matter of compliance, an integrity committee that will deal with all these before submission, and that has to be signed off by the DVC of research. We will also have to change our RIMS. It's going to start being opened from June. So from now on, every time there are publications, your research officers can start submitting. It doesn't have to wait for end of the year or beginning of the year close to submission date. So we are going to effect that approach to scholarship. This I'm going to be very quick. In 2016, this is 2016, when we did the rounds beginning of the year, we wanted to implement this in 2016. Unfortunately, we couldn't. So this is going to wait for 2017. We have done consultation with faculty research committees. We have all agreed that moving forward, we are just going to put university resources, especially for financial, into niche areas, into chairs, into cities of the university. That information, you'll find it if you want to know who are the niche areas, who are the cities, who are the researchers in the university. And we are going to fund our master students. Faculties have recommended that we fund South African students full scholarship the way we have proposed, and international students the current value that we are giving to scholarship students. And we also are going to possibly have postgraduate teaching assistantship. For the South Africans, it was a recommendation from faculties, not ours. So our students who will be on scholarship will then help in terms of postgraduate teaching assistantship without the departments or faculties having to add onto their scholarships. So this is what we have proposed for 2016, and it was approved for 2017. The cost to that I want to get to the cost. These are our niche areas, and this is according to the set targets of performance of niche areas. And this is what we're going to put forward for niche areas. The total cost at master's level, if we are to accommodate 95 students in niche areas, will be 15 million. 77 students, doctoral level, will be 22 million. If we are put pressure to accommodate all such, I'm not sure where we're going to get this money from. Turn it in, colleagues. This is a tool for detecting plagiarism of our students. It may be your articles, but our responsibility as DRE here is just to provide access to supervisors, not the students. And supervisors are to provide access to their students. So we hold hand. We will give access to your supervisors, but your supervisors must give access to their students. because we don't know who their students are. So help us in that. They may be registered but might not possibly be the students. Faculty research officers will provide guidance to supervisors who are not familiar with Turnitin and refer postgraduate students who require access to Turnitin to the supervisors. This is the commitment. Training will be done by the library. It is something that we know that departments and faculties must know and help us in driving it. Students have come to us and asked to have access to some tool to test for plagiarism before their documentation go to the supervisors. There is access to safeassign. We're working with Dr. Sisimane to provide them with such access so that they can see what exactly it means detecting plagiarism. 5 minutes. Yes. Oh, thank you. This is the tool that we have bought into as an institution. It helps our researchers with their identification. For instance, before I became RM Rasileka, I was RM Mufulu. And when I write, depending on how I feel on the day I put a publication together, I sometimes omit the initial M or sometimes put it the other way around. So you become 17 people in one. The ORCID ID is going to help you be identified by just that number as yourself. You know, we're dealing with Ethiopian students. Today they call themselves their father's surname. Tomorrow they are their mother's surname. It happens, and it happens. So it's very difficult to say, who exactly are you? But with ORCID ID, I think it's because they have identified that there's a problem. And according to the National Research Foundation, it's a matter of compliance now. We have to have ORCID IDs. There is a process on how to register. Colleagues, please encourage your researchers to register. It's free of charge for them to register, but it helps them in terms of their own identification. The National Research Foundations will use this to at least identify or put together a database of reviewers who are sitting at institutions. So please encourage your researchers to register on ORCID ID. There are ORCID IDs that they can have different, their IDs for publications. The publication houses now are seeing this as a requirement for you to publish. So the sooner you register, the better, because it will be a requirement for publication in other journals. In other journals, it already is. And for our students also, it is very important for us to track after they have left the institution. So it is a tool that will benefit all of us. It will be integrated, it will be linked with HR systems. These problems of where exactly is information, how do I put? ORCID ID is going to solve all those problems for us. So help us by encouraging our researchers to have such IDs. The information is there. I'm not going to go there, but I like this slide. It's just to confirm what Professor Muji has said. 2 minutes, Doctor.
No,
it's finished. Okay. So, if you promised me, colleagues, you will be able to understand this. I can just leave it for you. But if you don't understand, you can just give me a shout. But thank you. The bottom line is, this is how we have done in 2014. Research outputs. And this is the total number of staff with M's and D's, PTS, permanent teaching staff at different faculties. And in brackets was the number of professors at the time, 2014, and then the total number of research outputs, not publication outputs. Now, when you look at this, you'll see that Faculty of Engineering is number 1, remains number 1 for more than 3 years, leading
5.
for more than 5 years. I said more than 3 years, so I'm still saying. So Faculty of Engineering has been leading us in terms of research performance. Faculty of Science has led us. Number 2 has led us in the past, before the 5 years engineering took over. and then they became number 2, but now humanities has assumed position number 2. I think that deserves an applaud. Humanities is number 2. We did not see it coming. I actually used to think management sciences was going to be a threat for science. But management sciences decided to remain number 4 now, took position number 4, humanities number 2, science number 3, and science with all the professors. It's a challenge. It's a challenge to